So we're live here at Westminster Abbey, and you're joining us on a glorious day, the inaugural tour with KTT Legacy and Marion and GSI of the Bee Gees and their lives in London. And I'm delighted to be joined on the broadcast by the fantastic singer-songwriter, producer, mentalist, my business partner, and all-round good egg, RJ Gibb. How are you, RJ?
Wonderful, Andrew. I think we just left off talking about Westminster Abbey.
That's right, and you were always saying that never interrupt Westminster Abbey, and as soon as that happened, the hand of God intervened and said, I'll tell you when I take a break, and it's going to be good. So yes, we're outside Westminster Abbey, and the glorious entrance on the eastern side, absolutely sensational.
No, the architecture is incredible. It's the old Gothic style. I mean, it's actually it's actually the Abbey of St. Peter. Not a lot of people know that, but it's.
I think it's actually the Abbey of St. Peter, isn't it? I think because not a lot of people know that. Is that right?
I mean, it was a monastery as well.
Yeah, I think there used to be a monastery as well, didn't it?
Yeah, the cloister in there is where the Benedictine monks built.
Oh, fantastic!
The famous cloister, and just off from that is the room, the round room where Henry VIII held his conference. It has so many people buried in there of note that everyone from Charles Dickens and Handel back to Henry VII. There's so many. Coronations. That's where the coronation. William the Conqueror had his coronation. I think every monarch except Edward the Fifth and Edward the Eighth, I believe, are the two that didn't have. Because Edward the Eighth was never crowned, and Edward the Fifth was also never crowned because, of course, he never made it to his coronation.
Yes, I mean it is quite incredible, the rich history, and what's interesting is that both you and your father have an absolute appetite, a hunger even, for all things historical. And I think, what I find is a real joy is when I come and visit you in Tame, is that your boys in particular, in Teddy, is getting there, and Max, but he has such a hunger for knowledge, and anything to do with history is just phenomenal. And he obviously inherited that from his grandfather, your father, Robin. And talk to me about, we went to the Bombers Command Memorial a bit earlier. Tell us about the hunger for history.
Oh my God. We used to. I was saying before, when people go to London, a lot of people will go to. They'll go to shop, or they'll go to the clubs and such, which of course I'm also guilty of in my past. But one thing I used to do with my father all the time when we go in is, and I'd always look forward to it, is going to all the historical landmarks and places, from the beautiful to the macabre to the it didn't matter. It's you got the tower. We used to always go to the tower. Go to Westminster Abbey. We go. We'd love to go and see some of the places on the banks as well of the river, like the Belfast, the Second World War. So we great histories of the great history buffs of the Second World War, the First World War, the English Civil War. And of course my house has a history of being a military base for the Royalists, and then for the Roundheads when they attacked. So it's I've grown up here digging things out of the ground like musket balls, and there's some musket balls still in my door actually.
It is quite extraordinary seeing those holes and the musket balls that you have that. It's quite extraordinary. And talking of history, I brought us over to the square, which has been on the news a lot with all these reports about statues and various other things. And I'm delighted to say that yet again, firstly, I'm the only one here. But secondly, all these statues, and we'll talk you through them, all these statues are beautifully in place. You have a look here, this is the square, again live on KTT and GSI. We're bringing you the news as it happens, and I'm going to walk you through, because I think it's important that we put a positive side on the news. We always say about the news that it's one person's view of events, and actually one of the things that RJ and I always do is question everything, because I think what you should do is consume your news through different channels, because here is, for example, Nelson Mandela in his prime. If I walk you along these different statues, right next to him I think is Peel, who lived from 1888 I think until 1850. Yes, it was fantastic.
Yeah, no, he started the police force, the Peelers, which were the Bow Street Runners, and they were the first police force in the city. They before that they didn't want to have any kind of militia overseeing the people, but he pushed for it and he got it. But one of the other things Robert Peel did was he took a pen and overnight ran it through all the things you could be hanged for, up to just I think murder, espionage, and I think those were the three. And you could be hanged for so many things. It's ridiculous. Overnight changed the.
And that's what Robert Peel as well, when you talk about the Peelers, this is where Bobby's is one of the nicknames for policemen. That came from, because he was Robert Peel. But you also had the Peel in connection with Parliament itself, and that whole sort of family. Now, one of the ones which has hit the news a lot, which I'll take you along to, is obviously the statue of Winston Churchill. And we've seen that on the reports, and the last time anybody saw it on the reports, he was boarded up and people were scared they were going to deface him and everything. But I think live here on KTT, and we are live, tell us the time, RJ.
It is 1:56 BST.
1:56 here in London, sunny London. That's Viscount Palmerston. We're walking past here, and what I'm doing, this is Andrew Eborn live. So reports, last time you would have seen Westminster Square, you would have seen lots of people in a fairly angry state, maybe that's a polite way of putting it, and it was completely crowded, and people were very worried about what was going to happen to London, if there were going to be riots, what was going to happen to some of the statues here. And the last thing we ever saw, you might remember in the press, was Winston Churchill all boarded up. Do you remember that image, RJ?
Yes, yeah. It's not a statue that I've always been very fond of. I thought they could have done a better likeness of it.
Yeah.
It's what it represents.
It is what it represents. Well, I thought live and exclusively here for KTT and GSI, behind me is the statue. And as I say, the truth is, as in not the truth, you can see that is Winston Churchill in his finery. He's not boarded up, he's not covered in paint, and actually we can have a good close look at him. But this is live, and this is something that the news are not picking up on. It's deserted here, and there we go. I can see all the love around the world. There is Churchill, and this is why it's so important. Because the problem with the news, and we often say, don't let the truth stand in the way of good story. And it was P.T. Barnum who said, if you want to draw a crowd, start a fight. Which is why bad news sells, That's what they say. Bad news sells. But there's not enough good news. And what we want to do at KTT is to bring you more good news. Not only are we going to bring you good news about what's happening in the world, but we're going to bring you good news about the legacy of RJ's father, Robin Gibb, and the legacy of the Bee Gees themselves. And tell us a bit about that, because it seems an appropriate moment, as I'm in Westminster, to talk about legacy, RJ.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, the last thing I'll say on what we were talking about before is that just one word of caution to the world is that to erase the past is very dangerous because you're doomed to repeat it. So I think you always need to have a memory of who was and what happened. So yeah, no, that's just my view on it. That even you have the good and the ugly in history, and I think if we don't learn even about the ugly as well, if it's erased, then we have no way of avoiding it in future, our future generation.
And it's absolutely right. We always say that history repeats itself, and yet we never learn the lessons of history. And I think if you cloud history, if you forget or pretend that things didn't happen, then we're lying to ourselves, aren't we?
Yes, and if you had to remove anything that was then for instance you'd have to get rid of the Romans, because of course they horribly enslaved. So it's part of the development of the stepping stones to where we are now. So it's exactly that. If you remove the memory of any of this, then people are doomed to repeat it because they don't have anything to avoid.
I think that's absolutely right. And as we're here in the heart of Parliament in the UK and important decisions are being made on an hourly basis, I thought it's inappropriate, because when we talked about our company, RJ, we talked about setting up Not the Truth. There were a number of reasons for that. Run us through the various reasons why Not the Truth was particular, and that was the name that we settled on.
Yeah. No, it's the fake news era and the propaganda that's been. I mean, it's as old as politics, but recently it's become vice, and I think it's become much more relevant that people question everything they are told by the media. I mean, my family have had so many articles and from many different outlets, and did not tell the truth, and skewed the truth horribly. And so we've been dealing with fake news for a very long time, and it's not something that's new. It's just something that people are now more aware of.
But I think that's absolutely right, isn't it? Is that that is why, when I brought you to the seat of Parliament, we need to question everything. And Marin's in agreement as well. And I think one of the stories that we've seen on the news is that London is throbbing with people. Everybody's coming out to the shops. It's all very crowded. They're not observing social distancing. Well, you're live and exclusive here with KTT and GSI. I'm showing you the streets of London live. This is it. I'm outside the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport, which you can see here. And you can see that it's deserted, absolutely deserted at the moment. How are you? You all right? Nice to see you. And we're walking along HM Revenue and Customs. As you walk along here, the classic sign of London, obviously, are these telephone boxes. People always think like a red London bus. And I don't know who's ever used a telephone box now. I've yet to see one. They certainly don't have the adverts they used to put in these telephone boxes. But nowadays, so many people have mobile phones, but I think they keep those there for the tourists. When did you last use a phone box, RJ?
Yeah. Tell you the truth, probably not in 10 years. In the last decade, have I used a telephone box. But the most famous one in London is, of course, that one that's right in front of the Big Ben. And you can always see it in postcards. It's probably the most famous telephone box. And it's facing towards the bridge, and you've got Big Ben.
Well, we'll go to it. We are but 10 seconds away from it, so I'll walk you there. We are right by it. It's almost as though, even though I know you're not near a screen, you're almost telepathic, and that's the great thing about RJ. He's a brilliant mentalist. So what a lot of people, apart from being a fantastic singer-songwriter and producer and talented actor, The mentalism stuff is, I'm a member of the Magic Circle and have been for years and years and years. And RJ does something a little special, don't you, RJ? You should tell us about that as I approach this very famous telephone box, which you just had a feeling about, because we are right here by Westminster Station. And you can see there's a telephone box here, there's this particular one. The Big Ben, as I say, is the name of the bell, but the tower is all covered in scaffolding, so you can't see that in its finery at the moment. Behind over here, we took you to Winston Churchill, and you remember what I said about Winston Churchill. He's not boxed up, he's not covered in graffiti now. Everything's been done. There are no massive crowds here in the centre of London. And here, I believe it's this one you're talking about, RJ. Here's this telephone box. People are honking, not me, but somebody else. And you can see, there we are, that's the view. So talk to us about this telephone box and that view of London, RJ, as I'm holding up for the people.
Yeah, no, that is the telephone box that you usually see. They'll usually throw in a double-decker in the back as well, just to the icing on the cake. You've got Big Ben, the double-decker, and that telephone box. And
They always have their selfies, don't they? They do that strange pose. And nobody knows what they do with these selfies once they've all gone home. We get millions and millions and millions. The most selfied one of all. We love it. All good. Anyway, that's the telephone box. So very good. As I say, we're here in the heart of London, exclusively with KTT Legacy and GSI. If you've joined us, we've been broadcasting live on air since 11:11 this morning. And what we did a special all-inclusive one this morning with the Marcel Marceau version to start with. So you just had the visuals, but they were stunning visuals because we wanted to whet your appetite for the joys to come. You've got to join us. We're going to go back to the same locations, and RJ will be telling us about his memories of a lot of those as well. If you've just joined us, this is specially arranged by KTT Legacy together with the wonderful GSI and Marion Adrianson. Tell us about your relationship with Marion and how long you've known her and how important she is to the Bee Gees legacy.
Well, I've known Marion. I've known her for even longer than that. She's one of the fans, especially in Europe, that kept the pin together and kept the network going. That eventually became probably it is the strongest Bee Gees fan club in existence now. So absolutely. She does Regent well. We became closer friends through the work on making these legacy shows a reality, and of course all the other endeavors that are the offshoots of that endeavor, of that venture. She's valuable.
So really, really important to the story and the ongoing story of the Bee Gees, because without the fans, as you say, the Bee Gees are the soundtrack to everybody's life. And we started our tour at 11:11 this morning outside those famous studios where many of those very first hits were crafted. The studios we learnt about Lonnie Donegan, and you were telling us that fantastic story about My Old Man's a Dustman and how your father and your uncles, the Bee Gees, recorded that. Remind us of that story.
Yeah, no, you can still find the recording of it. Barry played guitar, and you had the twins. They had their little cardigan vest thing on, and they're singing My Old Man's Dustman. Which is, it's just so a coincidence that later on, that very same room where that song was recorded, they would record some of their greatest hits. Yeah, anyway, there's a lot of those kind of synchronicities that have happened throughout all of
No, absolutely, it's quite extraordinary. Well, we're joining us now. We've been invited into one of the most famous political places in the world, but I have to come alone, so I'm just going to show you here. This is, you'll recognise it, and on all the news reports, famously this is Downing Street, and the home of the Prime Minister. Here in Downing Street, we have everybody here. There's normally lots of people around here at the moment. Nobody here today, everybody's deserted. Where's it? How's Larry the cat doing? Have you seen Larry?
He was out about 10 minutes ago.
Oh, was he? We always miss Larry. Larry's the, what do they call him? The Mouseketeer or something of the of Downing Street.
First Lord of the Treasury, first Mouseketeer.
Fantastic. And how David Cameron brought him, didn't he, originally?
He's been here for about 40 years.
What, David Cameron has? No, that's it. 40 years? Good. So who brought him?
They get one from Battersea every time there's an accident with the previous one. It's always called Larry.
Oh, it's always called Larry. So this Larry, fake news, is not a real Larry. So how many Larrys have there been?
Not got a clue.
But
About 20.
20 different Larrys. Amazing. So the first one was 40 years ago. So,
Battersea Dogs Home.
okay.
They all called cat Larry.
Oh, yes, and they're always called Larry. Do you know why it's called Larry? But
I think the first one is.
you said, no, let's make it up. This, I didn't know. What? You don't make, well, no, when they make things up. What I love is on Downing Street. I thought there was one Larry the cat, and you're telling me that Larry, there's been like 20 of them. So how do they do for much? So what does he do? He just wanders up and down here, does he?
He's too fat to catch mice.
Oh, is he? So not only that, doesn't even.
Inside all the time.
I'll tell you what, the Treasury Office, they were telling me they've got a couple of cats as well, is that right? What are they called? Lord Palmerston, come on, we love it.
Foreign Secretary.
That look, so you knew that one. You don't know about Larry, Makeup Larry, 40 years ago, named after Laurence Olivier, because he used to play lots of roles as well, and the fact you had 20 of the Larrys is absolutely brilliant. I love it. Well, listen, it's a real joy. How's it been around here? Because it's all deserted in London.
Totally empty.
Isn't that weird? What's happened to everybody?
All staying at home, all worried.
They're all staying alert. I think that's the problem. They work on that sort of basis. Listen, it's a real joy. We'll catch up with you next time, but thanks a lot. And next time I come, I want the real story. And I'll tell you what you should do. Do you reckon we can see Larry? If you see him, if I wonder, how often does he come backwards and forwards?
In this heat, he'll be in the house next to the air conditioning.
Oh, will he? A wise move, a wise move. Well, we'll catch up with him next time. We'll speak to the press office and get that sorted. What's your name?
Dave,
Dave. Thanks a lot, Dave. Nice to see you. Goodbye. Everybody give us a wave.
have a great day.
Take care. There you go. We're live from Downing Street. Thank you. See you soon. Fantastic stuff. There you go. Live and exclusive. Live from Downing Street. We bring you breaking news, you know. I told you about the crowd. So that's about Larry the cat. Little did I know about Larry the cat that actually Larry the cat I thought came when David Cameron came along. They've told us, breaking news here on KTT, that Larry the cat, there have been 20 Larry the cats, and each of them was acquired, first one was acquired about 40 years ago, and when they go to where cats go after they've finished their 9 lives, what happens is they replace them with another one from Battersea Dogs Home. Well, I didn't know that, so breaking news here on KTT. The other breaking news is that London is empty, and I'm outside the Cabinet Office now, and we can talk to the Prime Minister over here. I've got RJ Gibb on the phone. Hello, people. Here's the Cabinet Office. Fantastic. They're empty, and we can go along and say there. So what do you think of that, RJ? Quite extraordinary.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I've been into Downing Street number 10, number 11. Yeah, no. The little garden in the back.
It's a lovely garden at the back, and what I love about Downing Street, and I have been in a few times, invited as a guest. There's a picture of me. I think I just posted it on Facebook for those. I look as though I ate all the pies from Downing Street. I'm standing outside number 10, and I'm certainly half the man I used to be. But I think this was, and I put the caption showing what I used to look like to what I look like now. I put inflation to recession. Because I'm certainly a little bit skinnier now than I used to be.
Oh, no pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain. But it is, what we're going to do on KTT, it's the easy way to lose weight. We could sell anything, RJ. I think it's fantastic. I love it. Here we go. So always a joy. The fans are still watching, and thank you so much everybody who's joining us around the world. We are live and exclusive here in London. We've just spoken to the Prime Minister's office. We had a fantastic news story about Larry the cat, and each time I do ask RJ, what time is it, just to prove we are live, because a lot of people say, oh no, you must be there at 4 o'clock in the morning, or it must be what. What's the time now? And all check your watches now. What's the time,
14,
RJ?
14.
What time? 14:14. You see, we started at 11:11. It's 14:14, and it's Greenwich Mean Time. That is the time. It's live here in the heart of London. You're joining me, Andrew Eborn, together with the wonderful RJ Gibb, and we're guiding you through the streets of London. We're talking all things to do with GEES, but we're also showing you how life is opening up here in the city. We had an exclusive interview with Downing Street a moment ago about Larry the cat and the breaking news. Morning. There you go, fantastic. Working incredibly hard. How are you doing? You all right? Good to see you. This is Horse Guards Parade, and the horses are here guarding it, quite appropriately. Morning, it's so hot, isn't it? Doing all right? Fantastic. Not allowed to move, so horses may bite or kick. Indeed they will. And there's a museum here for the household cavalry. And what's absolutely stunning, is London. There's so much to do and see. We've been on the road since bright and breezy this morning. It's lovely to see so many people joining us on this journey. We will make this available afterwards, and we will put a soundtrack onto the earlier stuff. In fact, we'll do it again, won't we, RJ? So we'll do this regularly, because what we love is finding out the places that you, the fans, want to go and see. And we'll take you around. We'll take you around by foot. We don't need to have a car or a taxi, because the principle is exactly that, is that we can take you wherever you want to go. And just send your requests. I'm happy to walk around London as I do. RJ will accompany me.
It can be about the GEES, it can be about history in general. It can, it can be about my life. It can be about, anything to do with Gibb music or history.
It is.
We'll go there and discuss it.
We will explore places nobody's wanted to explore before. It's an absolute thrill. You let us know. We are fearless in our quest for the truth. And we broke the news today about, I cannot believe this, we broke the news about Larry the cat. Can you believe that?
Larry Double X.
Exactly. It is quite extraordinary. We're approaching now, it's a nice bit of a breeze now. I think I could do with a breeze on a day like this. But we're approaching Trafalgar Square. Now tell me about Trafalgar Square, RJ, and the connection with Trafalgar Square and your father and your uncles.
The plinth there. I remember my father did he sang a song for the, because he was there with the what are they called, the Pearly. I'll have to remember, but yeah, no, he was there with Kevin Burrow, who's a good friend. He was there with Matt Hackers, other good friends of his son for years, Jay. You know Jay Burrow.
Of course.
I think he's done his hair a couple of times. What do they call this? Pearly Kings.
The Pearly Kings. Hear me, old love.
Right.
I'm up the Frog and Toad for a Vera gin. Gotta have a word with the trouble and strife. Can you believe your mince pies? Those are your Pearly Kings, your Cockney rhyming slang.
So my father is actually from Flint. So that's something not a lot of people know.
Well, which plinth? We're going to have a look. Which plinth did he do?
Flint that people usually
Oh, the People's Plinth.
Yeah, they do like poetry or street poetry, that kind of thing.
Oh, fantastic! Well, let's go and have a look. We'll talk to a street poet. I love the fact, and you're right, we're getting to on the street. I love the fact this is just wandering around, not getting run over, wandering around in central London, chatting to people. We met Dave a little bit earlier, who told us that breaking story about Larry the cat, which was quite extraordinary. We're going to get an exclusive interview. Oh yes.
That's usually what it is. The Flint is a fundraiser.
Oh, the Pearly Kings are brilliant. charity fundraisers, and that's how we started this conversation, because you yourself in lockdown, and part of the mission for KTT has been not just keeping the legacy alive, but looking at how we can support good causes. There's my birthday present. My birthday present just driving past. 7th of July, that'll do. 00999. So yes, talk to us about how important charity work is and the sort of stuff we've been doing on lockdown.
Yeah. So you broke out.
Yeah, no, so I was just saying that we were talking about charitable work and how important charity was for your father and uncles. Talk to us a little bit about that, because also what we found is that even in lockdown there are great causes that we can support, we can help raise money and awareness, and how part of the legacy was not just keeping your father and your uncle's legacy alive with the music, but also the charitable side as well. And I was just discussing some of it, firstly your father's charitable work, but also the stuff that with KTT we managed to do in these extraordinary times. I'm live here on Trafalgar Square as you do it.
Yeah, no, we've had a relief check going with the Masonic Charitable Foundation. That's to raise money for ventilators and just medical equipment in general for the NHS and the Red Cross and the air ambulance and so forth. You know, it's probably one of the most worthy causes, and it's run by one of the best in the charitable sphere. You know, so I think that the Masons, Freemasons, they garnered more money during the tsunami than any other group in there. They continue to almost so most of the funding that goes to the air ambulance comes to them as well. So anyway, we've got that relief chest that people can we'll put up the link again as well, so you can see donate money, or just tell a friend as well, or if you can't afford to, then just at least pass on the news that someone might be able to give something. And apart from that, we've just done the Lifeline charity, which is sort of help raise money for the same sort of equipment for the COVID relief efforts in Serbia and India. So it's 50-50 profit, and that raised £450,000. Extraordinary. We've got a lot of these other causes lined up, and my father is so such a philanthropist. I mean, he had so many different things he was having: Alzheimer's, cancer research, breast cancer. We held one of the big breast cancer something here in Randall, not a year before he passed away, and probably one of the best, one of the most amazing things they've done is they've dedicated whole songs to raise money for charity, like Too Much Heaven.
And it was incredible, and it wasn't just the royalties they would have received from Too Much Heaven, but also they managed to persuade the record companies and the publishers as well, didn't they?
Yeah. No, all the proceeds from Too Much Heaven go to UNICEF to help children in need around the world.
And that is the incredible thing about phenomenal generosity, and as we say, they not only inspirational in terms of the artistic endeavours, but in terms of how they can use their position in society to make a real difference. And what I love is we're entering the heart of London here, and we talk about London reopening and a truth about it, the National Portrait Gallery, because some of the pictures I see of your father and the paintings and the photographs that you have up there are tremendous, aren't they? Is photography very, very important in your family?
Yeah. That's a great industry photographer.
You know, when you just want to bring the car.
He knows some of them, actually. When we started working together, we realized we knew a lot of the same people,
No, and you can capture that moment, and that's what I find extraordinary. So that's the National Portrait Gallery behind us, and each of these is just inspirational. But again, and we keep doing the time, and maybe this is indicative of some of the riots. There you go, I can show the bad news as well as the good. Somebody's tried to smash a window, but the crowds are no longer here. And you're watching this live and exclusive here on KTT. We're bringing the news as it happens, and I keep checking in so you can check your watches. So this is the deserted London. RJ, give us the news check. What's the time?
14:24 GMT BST.
It's 14:24 here live on KTT, and these are the streets of London as we speak. So whatever images you might get on the news, this is the ENO, fantastic building. Some superb concerts have taken place in here. The marriage of Figaro was due to be from March until April. Obviously that didn't happen. But what you're seeing is that people talk about the bad stuff because news, they like the bad stuff. And what we try to do here at KTT, good or bad, we like to bring you the truth. And that's why we're in this fake news world. The reason RJ and I came up with a brilliant name, Not the Truth, KNOT, was because that's what happens. We live in an era where the truth is knotted, the truth is distorted, and it's almost like, as we lawyers say, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Is that a choice? Which one do you want? Do you want the truth? Do you want the whole truth? Or nothing but the truth? The reality is, any newspaper report is just that. It's a report. It's one person's view of what's going on in the world. What we like to do is we get all of our news from different sources. So in the same way, we would encourage, have a look at the BBC, have a look at ITV, then go over to Sky and CNN, and then Russia Today, because between all of those, the truth will out. Isn't that right, RJ?
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, my newsfeed, when it comes to my phone, it's the Apple News. You know, we have everything from the Times. We've got the Daily Mail, the Express, we've got CNN, got Fox, and RT, Sputnik, and all these alternative news stations as well. That like you also have Al Jazeera. So unless you look at it and see and compare all these different all the stories that come out, you're not able to form a picture, decide for yourself. You shouldn't just take what's spoon-fed to you from your. You shouldn't be partisan about the news or about events that are happening, because that's what's happened. It's become politicized. It's activism, really. All the news stations are either gunning for the right or for the left. There's no middle ground really anymore, and you have to compare all of them, even the outside news sources.
And that's absolutely right. And that's what we like, because what I've realised is what used to be the Rolodex that people would have. Let me just show you here. There's a fantastic place, nobody in it. But I'm just going to show you, because these are, do you remember those wonderful Santa Nata, the Taste of Lisbon? They're these wonderful custard things. I'm just showing you here. Hello, good afternoon. We're live on Altwist TV. I just want to say hello. Good to see you both back open. When did you open? 2 months ago. And how's it been? It's difficult when nobody's around, isn't it? And I'll tell you what, the food that you do here is sensational. I love it. Tell me, do you know the history? What is the history of Santa Nata? Oh, you have the history here. Well, I'll tell you what, if I could lip sync. So the story of the original pastel de nata, I think it dates back before the 18th century, where they were created by monks in a monastery in Santa Maria. And at the time, egg whites were used for starching clothes, weren't they? Which meant that the leftover egg yolks were transformed into cakes, pastries and desserts. And about 1834, all of Lisbon's convents and monasteries were forced to close. So the monks began to sell the sweet pastries to survive. Have you got one? Can you show us one? Yeah, here we go. We're going to have a look at this. And we're going to bring one over. And Portugal is famed the world over for the pastel de nata. It's crispy, flaky layers of pastry with a delicious, creamy egg custard filling and a dusting, just a dusting of cinnamon. And in Santa Nata, they only serve authentic and delicious nata. They make it throughout the day, every day, and it's made by their pastry chef. And look at this! Yum, 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 people! Is that good? So you are live to millions of people. Is that cool? Thank you so much. Shall I take that? Ah, you're very good. Look at me on the house. That's very good. Thank you very much. Nice to see you. Yum, yum. I've got my lunch. How good is that? Yum. Thank you. Oh, don't you love those custard tarts? Right. We love it. This is the way to do it, RJ. I could just wander around these shops and I can blag lunch. How good is that?
Anyone could do it too.
I know. What a thrill. But I'll tell you what, they are absolutely delicious. Well, I'll save that for later. Any other thing? Let's have a flight centre. Maybe I could blag a holiday. It's got to be good. What we're doing, RJ, we're making our way through some fantastic stores on our way to Covent Garden. So tell us about Covent Garden and the history of Covent Garden. Yum yum teas and yum 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 yum. How to smell that. We're on our way to Covent Garden. This is Andrew Eborn here, getting all sorts of freebies. Let me tell you about the Roundhouse, though. This is 1860. Garrick Street was opened to improve access to Covent Garden Market and theatres. And Garrick Street became so popular that this particular public house was opened in 1868 as the Pettis Hotel. And for the next 75 years, it became a famous watering hole for visitors to the theatre and market tradesmen alike. And then in 1943, the Pettis Hotel was renamed the Roundhouse, and this is the Roundhouse now. And basically, it's to complement the unmistakable shape of the building. And apart from the name change, little else has altered. So I can show you through the window. And if you're with me, apart from this fantastic lunch which I'm about to have, we could have got a pint in there as well. Right, RJ, we're entering Covent Garden. We're on Garrick Street. Where would you like me to go? I'll go anywhere. I'm on a mission now. Where do you want us to go?
It used to be the garden of the Abbey and convent of Westminster. Westminster Abbey used to have arable land and orchards, so they owned different lands around London, and it was this was just an area of fields. I mean, you've heard of it as the convent garden, so it's gone from convent to convent. That's the whole thing. It was the abbot of Westminster Abbey who had these lands, and he always referred to them as the garden, the abbey, and the convent. And see, people have misspelled it when they were making road signs over the years to Covent. So eventually, it just became Covent Garden, and now it's the area with the opera house and everything else. So I remember seeing Punch and Judy show when I was a boy.
Sorry.
Hello?
Yeah. I'm just eating. It's wonderful. I was hoping you would talk for a lot longer. That was delish. Yeah, well, I'll take you to the Punch and Judy. Thank you to our friends for the wonderful snack. So we're coming up to Covent Garden Piazza, and you mentioned the Punch and Judy show. Right here in the middle is the Punch and Judy.
They don't allow those. You can't see Punch and Judy shows anymore because, of course, the violent content. But,
yeah, that's right. If you tell people there's a man who beats up his woman, a policeman comes along and beats up everybody, they hit the baby.
But if you watch the show, they all beat each other.
And they all beat each other up. And then they all get eaten by crocodiles. It's scandalous. Absolutely scandalous what goes on here. That was delicious. I'm so glad. I was hoping your story would last a bit longer. I was enjoying that egg custard. Oh, how good was that? Let's sit right. Here we go. This is the Punch and Judy here.
Punch and Judy actually goes back to Punchinello, the old character from the Italian Mask. The street comedy. And they always had a guy who had the Venetian mask with the long nose, and he was always known as Punchinello.
And that is what. Why did he have the long nose? And Pinocchio with the long nose, who?
It came from the Venetian masks. They were using them because they were exaggerated. They were caricatures as well. It was a way of having the street comedy that look a bit more, hilarious and colourful.
And Venice is stunning. With KTT and this glorious travelling, we're going to take people all over the world. You're going to join us on these virtual journeys as you see us blagging our lunch, our wonderful tourists and shopkeepers. But it is great. And talk about another icon of London, which in the heart of London would normally be packed with people on a very busy lunchtime, just past lunchtime. What's the time, RJ? Make sure we're still live.
It is 2:35.
2:35. You can check your watch. This is live in London, in one of the busiest places of all, which is Covent Garden. And behind me, you can see it is completely empty, and quite extraordinary. And we go over here. Anne Smith says that Pinocchio didn't have a long nose unless he started to tell fibs. No, you're absolutely right, Anne. And what happened, and this is why it's so appropriate when we're talking about Pinocchio, and we script these things. Exactly. We love it. And Pinocchio, we are living. Look, here's Ben's cookies. Ben's on the phone, so I won't disturb him. Ben's cookies.
It's Punchinello, not Pinocchio.
Oh, yes, but yeah, yes, but no, fantastic. But Anne was making the point that it didn't until we had lots of lies, and the reality is we live in a world where you have to realize real lies. I'm going to take you into my favourite perfumier, Penhaligon's here in Covent Garden. We're live on KTT and Octopus TV. Can I show people around? I'm trying to encourage people back to London and the extraordinary stuff. And I was telling them how glorious you have a fantastic store, which is fantastic.
Before you pop in, we do ask you to use hand sanitizer.
Oh, of course. No, I want to use my sanitizer.
So, yes.
Thank you. I got one. Is that okay? And I've got to rub it into the other hand. What can you? Okay.
Yeah, let me just.
Yeah. That's it. We put some gloves on. That's okay. This is good. So tell us about how it's been in lockdown for you.
It's been very good to see people. It's very nice to be back as well.
Isn't it nice to be back? Because it's a bit difficult in otherwise. And I think working on that sort of basis where you've been closed. Were you closed at all during lockdown?
Yes, we were.
Did you do postal service?
We are still online.
Still online as well. But
yes.
And when did you open?
We opened last week Monday.
And have there been many customers?
Yeah, we have done.
Okay,
Yes.
because I love the current. Talk me through some of these glorious perfumes. Yes, so we're live. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. All right. Okay.
So fantastic. So you can talk us through. I'll tell you what. Talk us through this season's because there's particular ones which I love. Oh, okay. Okay, fantastic. So we'll do all of that. And what we do, we've got a fantastic season. So we're going to come back another time and have a look at that sort of stuff. But the perfumes here, Penhaligon's, are absolutely sensational. Take care. And we're going to have a look at this. And over here we have the Queen shop. And that's one of the things that we're going to sort out as well. There's a lot of merchandise we're going to be doing. And just showing them, RJ, that Queen have got it so right in terms of the shops that they've done. I'm looking here at the Queen's Happy Socks, Radio Gaga. And we've got a lot of plans with KTT as well. Talk to me about some of those plans.
In fact, I'm working on it right now as we speak. Yeah, it's the release of the line of clothing and sunglasses. And
hello. Hi. How are you doing? You're live on KTT. It's lovely to see you. How are you? I love this place. This is like chocolate heaven. Fantastic. So tell me about this place. Oh, look, they're all running. I love it. It's you, the spokesperson. Step forward. You are broadcasting. You're broadcasting to millions of people around. No, tell us about this. It's a great advert. Tell me about this place because it smells divine. How old is it? Months ago? Yeah.
It's like 6 years.
6 years, the shop. And where does the chocolate come from?
From Italy.
Ah, all Italians. Because we have people from Italy watching at the moment. We're doing something with the Italian Bee Gees. Are you from Italy?
No.
Are you from Italy? Are you from Italy? It's a fraud! This is nothing to do with Italian.
It's international city.
Oh, it's of course, international city. We love it. But I love the chocolate. Which is your popular ice cream? Can I try one? Of course I can. There we go. Which one are you going to let me have? These. Look at the colours of these.
In that quick, did it?
Ah, fantastic. Ah, which one's this? Yum, 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 people. It's what?
Hazelnut and chocolate.
I love hazel. We've got a whole load of nuts watching. Here we go. Ah. Ah, that's divine. Fantastic. Which is your second favourite?
Do you like dark chocolate?
I do like dark chocolate. Let's try some dark chocolate. Okay. Here we go.
Hello.
Okay, dark chocolate with caramelised hazelnut. That was divine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Do come down here. Wonderful. Good stuff. I'm so pleased we get all sorts of wonderful stores here. You're joining me, Andrew Eborn, in the heart of Covent Garden, blagging my way through lunch because there's nobody else here, and it's always a thrill. If there's anywhere you'd like to go and have a look, that's the one. Well done, and you knew which one we wanted. So, as I say, it's an absolute thrill. This is Covent Garden. I love Covent Garden too, and the reason I love Covent Garden, it's got so much atmosphere. We talked about the Punch and Judy pub a little bit earlier, and that's over here. You're joining us live at KTT. It's Andrew Eborn on my walk around London. And we are live. We're basically trying to show you what London's really like here in lockdown. And so many places are closed at the moment. And so many places, however, are open. And some of the big stores, whilst they're doing that, they're coming out in a creative way. Information is here. We can find out a little bit about what's Covent Garden's going on. Which places are open at the moment? Are you gradually opening up as we speak?
Generally, they just do shops, some shops, but not the restaurants, obviously.
And the normal sort of social distancing, but you're encouraging people to come down here because it's very quiet still, isn't it?
I'm just doing my work right now.
Oh, well, you're doing fantastic work at the moment, but we love it, and we're trying to encourage people to make that make sense, which is superb. So if you want to have a look, come down to Covent Garden, where they are just doing their work, always important. But behind over there is St Paul's Church. Now, St Paul's Church is called the Actors' Church, where lots of actors will come along. A number of actors have services there. And in fact, at Christmas, I had the honour of reading one of the lessons in the Actors' Church. And if you're joining us now, you're joining us live at Covent Garden. St Paul's Church was built by Inigo Jones in 1633. It's a Grade 1 listed building, and it's the parish church of Covent Garden. They've also had a long association with the theatre community, and they're known throughout the world as the Actors' Church. That's where we are. And you're joining us on the cusp of this place. We're going to get... Okay, we're here in the heart of Covent Garden, and you're joining us, KTT and GSI, with an exclusive tour around London with RJ Gibb. How's it going, RJ? Are you enjoying the heat?
Oh, it's wonderful. I mean, out here, I'm in Oxfordshire, in the Prebendal Garden at the moment, and it's stunning. I don't know what the temperature is at the moment. Yesterday it got to 40 degrees, but it's I mean, it is it's not that tropical heat. It's not humid. It's really dry summer heat here.
It is quite extraordinary. I mean, some of the extraordinary sights that I saw in Regent's Park this morning, I swear that I saw a tree chasing a dog. It is so hot.
Exactly.
So what we love about this little place, there's obviously the warnings everywhere about stop the spread of the coronavirus, keep your distance. Well, you can see they're keeping their distance because there's nobody here. It's just us. It's just Anne and Heather and lots of the people at the GSI fan club, all joining us from around the world, and you are very, very welcome. You're joining me, Andrew Eborn, together with the wonderful RJ Gibb, and we're giving you a special tour, a tour of London, and all things Bee Gees related. So tell me about Covent Garden and any special memories that you have of your time in Covent Garden.
Well, personally, I remember we saw Les Miserables, and later on, I think I went to Miss Saigon there.
Well, we have the Royal Opera House. We're just walking past that. I mean, it is the home in the West End.
I did it earlier, but I'm just thinking what else I saw there. I mean, we used to go there quite a lot.
Yeah, there are so many different places, and this is Theatreland, and we're just very close to Theatreland as well. Elizabeth is working and watching us, and welcome Elizabeth, and thank you so much for all your support with lots of people around the world. As I say, you joined us for the Marceau version this morning, with the lip syncing was working fine, and fantastic visuals, but we worked out that lots of people were phoning in, so they couldn't hear the words of wisdom. So we thought we'd take you to some extra places where you can hear us loud and clear, right here, live in the heart of London. That was Covent Garden. We're making our way now down Wellington Street, and at the bottom of Wellington Street they have the Lion King. They also have a number of the fine restaurants. Marion's back with us as well, and the Bee Gees played on the street in Covent Garden, so it's very famous for all sorts of buskers. And at the moment, with people all very, very quiet, you can see where the buskers would normally be, and it's where I showed you earlier, just by the Actors' Church on that main piazza and outside the Punch and Judy. You can imagine all those years ago that the Bee Gees, and what a surprise that must have been, what a delight for the punters to hear the Bee Gees playing live on the streets of Covent Garden. And you're joining us live on behalf of KTT and Marion and GSI. And on the line I also have RJ Gibb, who's recounting his fantastic stories of his time and the different theatre shows that he went. And what's interesting as well, RJ, in here, this is Theatreland, and you have everything to do with theatres. We're walking past Makeup is a Science, professional makeup artists that they have there, Little Bewley Street. And in a moment I'm going to walk you to the oldest restaurant in London, because food played a very important part in your father's life, an important part of your life, important part of my life. We do a lot of eating together.
Twice a day, yes.
I like twice a day, and that's before breakfast. we love it. No, food is a very important part of our life, and we go to some of the finest restaurants. We were talking about Montpelliano earlier, and how sadly that's closed because it didn't survive. Tell us about some of the other favourite restaurants that you have in London.
God, well, my father used to love Jetties.
Oh, talking of Jetties, here we are. I'm just going to. There's an ice cream shop in here.
It's now La Braseria.
Right.
Marylebone, which is.
Hello, you're live on KTT, and we saw your shop open. And fantastic. Are you busy? No, it's a bit. I love all this new social. Tell us about your stuff. What is different to your ice cream to the other ice cream? So they do all the different flavours and things like that. And is it vegan? Is that what it is? So it's... No, fantastic. So milk train, you put your popcorn and other stuff as well. So today's flavours. Can we try a bit? They're pre-made. Oh, I see. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, listen, it's really good. The milk train, the daydreams and ice creams. We love it. Fantastic. Right, yes, we're talking about restaurants and daydreams and ice creams, and they were, and you didn't see that, RJ, but they were in like a little bubble. It was like impenetrable, the amount of plastic they had around them, that you couldn't get anywhere near any sign of food at all. But you were telling us about your sort of favourite restaurants and how important they were, and we talked about Montpelliano. Which were some of the other ones? Oh, I think we've lost RJ. He's going to be calling back in a bit. Ah, he got lost. Let's have a look. And you're joining us live on Maiden Lane as we walk down here, and this is one of the oldest restaurants in London. We're coming up to Rule's Restaurant, and those of you who haven't seen this before, the amazing thing is it's so incredibly quiet at the moment, so incredibly peaceful, and again sadly it's all closed up at the moment. But Rule's Restaurant, it dates all the way back. It's the London's oldest restaurant. It was established in 1798. Napoleon opened his campaign in Egypt in 1798, and Thomas Rule promised his despairing family that he would say goodbye to his wayward past, and he settled down and he opened an oyster bar in Covent Garden. And Rules serves the traditional food of this country at its best. It specialises in classic game cookery and is fortunate in owning an estate in the High Pennines, England's last wilderness, and it supplies game for the restaurants where it's able to exercise its own quality controls and determine how the game is treated. So London's oldest restaurant, that's Rules, and sadly closed at the moment. Right, you're back live with us. Hopefully you can now hear us. I know we've been having a few issues with the sounds where sometimes we can't hear each other, but if you can hear us, maybe you can give a little indication, because we're here live in Covent Garden with KTT and GSI, and we've got Marion on the phone, Elizabeth and Heather and so on and so forth. So if you can hear us, let us know. So sorry about the sound, it does seem to be breaking out every now and again, and that's part of the problem with, at the moment they say that the internet use, yes, Heather can hear us, there we go. So I'm delighted that RJ's back with us. It was a little bit noisy again. And we were just talking before we interrupted, we were talking about restaurants and some of your favourites, RJ.
Which one were we talking about? It was.
Well, we spoke about the loss of Montpelliano. I think was the last time I heard you, and then it went a bit quiet. So Montpelliano, which one of your favourite restaurants, your father's favourite restaurant, and that sadly closed. And we're talking about, we've just walked past Rules, but some of the other restaurants in London which are particular highlights for you.
Gosh, yeah, no, I mean. Yes, I've taken you, I think, to Tozie's, which is that's Tozie's, Alto, or the one that's at the top of Selfridges. That's these are all some of the best Italian restaurants in London. I mean, there's actually a Georgian restaurant as well, Mimino, which is absolutely incredible. That's in Kensington High Street. Well, it's just off Kensington High Street. If you look it up, it's Mimino, and I would highly recommend it if you want something a bit different.
And what would be rather fun, RJ, is we should do a tour when the restaurants start opening up. We can show people, because it is extraordinary, and you particularly like Italian food, don't you?
Yeah, I like Italian food. I like some Bavarian dishes and Eastern European dishes. Hence, that's why my father liked to get us like borscht as well. We used to get great borscht at the Georgian place. Sorry if people are listening. When I say Georgian, I mean from Georgia, the country, not like a period-themed restaurant.
Oh, I love the idea that some of the dishes are so old they're out of date, from the Georgian era.
Well, there is a Harrods, they call it the Georgian restaurant, Harrods, but of course they mean from the era,
Quite extraordinary. Yes, lots of people are saying they can hear us loud and clear now, which is an absolute delight, because we've had a little problem with sound walking around London, and I think one of the problems is that so many people are using the internet at the moment, that it eats into things. Now we're passing Global London, which used to be Capital Radio, and obviously your father and uncles would appear here regularly, wouldn't they, on Leicester Square?
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, we were talking about them busking before as well, and I thought to myself, well, my father used to do the plinth, and the Bee Gees did that, and the busking, and that was raised a lot of money for charity. So I was thinking, what we could do, one of our KTT ventures we could put together is to do a celebrity busking.
Oh, I think that's a brilliant idea, and I'm sure lots of the people that would love to do that sort of side. And you've been involved, talking about celebrity giving back at the moment, you're involved with this drumathon as well, so talk to us a bit about that.
Well, Errol Kennedy and his wonderful wife Bev put together. I think he was just drumming. He was a drummer for Imagination, and he was drumming one night, and just thought, well, I'll just continue and maybe do this for charity. And so they started filming, the drumming. I think it was just on like a dustbin, which is great. It's perfect for like sort of lockdown feel. It's like Stomp or one of those other, where they're using plastic buckets for bongos. But he drummed away. I think what did you say, Andrew? It was 24 hours.
Yeah, and I think they've done, more than 300 hours, and quite incredible. They've broken all the records, and it has been quite extraordinary on that sort of basis. And talking about records, we've got the Odeon Cinema here, and that used to be a theatre, and I think your father and your uncles played here as well, didn't they? In Leicester Square.
Yeah, no, I'm not too sure, but unless you...
There were quite a few iconic places. Well, we have here Capital Radio, which is the home of Global. We have over there the Odeon. We have Leicester Square. So we're bang in the heart of Leicester Square Theatre. And just walking through here, RJ, as well. But no, you're right, in terms of KTT and introducing people to the different restaurants, and that's why I think having that sort of wish list is really helpful. We love the interaction when technology allows us with the fans. We love the idea that people can be connected, and even when we're giving you a little glimpse of what's going to happen in the future, we want to just basically say, look, okay, when things do get off lockdown, we're going to have proper crews with us and everything else. We won't lose connection, we won't lose sound, we'll be able to hear each other, which will be an absolute joy. And we're going to get lots of people on the show as well, aren't we, RJ? We're going to get lots of celebrities. Your idea to do more busking, I think that's a brilliant idea in Covent Garden. Talk to me about some of those other plans.
As far as
with KTT, and we were talking about dealing with every aspect from TV production, film production. We're doing holograms, we're doing a whole product range which is about to be launched via the website.
Well, yeah, that's right. There will always be an element of charity involved in it. So all the ventures we have, we've got the KTT Legacy. It's going to be the new e-commerce online store, and that will sell comfort clothing, leisure wear, which is a bit comfortable yet stylish. There's a line for women called Loose Threads, and there's a collection for men called Threadbare. And then we've got Robin Gibb's Glass Muse, which is the sunglass store. Oh, hold on, there's a member of my family here. One sec. Yeah, yes. Say hello. There's my mother here. It's going out everywhere. Hello.
And you're all here live. Are you okay, RJ?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Okay, I don't know. It's just... Okay.
That's okay. It's all, this is what I love about the live and the rawness thing of this, because sometimes we can't hear each other, and sometimes we think, oh, I'm just ignoring you, and sometimes, and that's the funny thing about this, is that it's all about technology. It's all about, this is the real moment where but we'll keep going. Love is the word. I'm outside here. I'm outside M&M's, and it's quite appropriate. Just a little word to everybody. Love is the word. That's what's inside. I'm just going to take them in here, RJ. Just 10 seconds. This is the M&M store. And if you'd like to see this, just come in. Hi, lovely to see you. You're live on KTT, and I wanted to show it. Say hi. Hi, there's Chantel and also Stephen. And we're just going to show them the fantastic stuff. How's it been? A little bit quiet at the moment, because we love this store. How are you doing? You got the friendly... You're Gabor, aren't you? From Hungary. I remember... Yes, fantastic. See, we remember all this sort of stuff. We love our Hungarians there as well. Can I do a little tour? Can we take people around? We're going to take you around. RJ, do you like M&M's?
Yeah, no, is that best you're with?
Oh, well, we'll walk on the way up. You may be Queen Bee. We'll walk... I just want to... Oh, a little bit of an accent. Okay. We'll just show them. So the downstairs is clear. I'll just show them for 10 seconds that you're right. It's really empty, but it was good to see you. Thank you very much. Right, you're right. Let's get back on track, RJ. Well done, folks. I'm glad that you're here, RJ, because I would just wonder. It was the smell of the chocolate, and you're right. Is that the best thing to do? It's not. Come out of the chocolate thing. But what is interesting is just how empty London is. I mean, that was the extraordinary thing. But we were talking, and the reason that I want to go in there, the guy is called Gabor, and one of the things that he's Hungarian. And I know that one of the people we've been talking about the best in the world, we've been looking at some fantastic Tokai. Talk to us a little bit about that.
That's why I was wondering if the person you've just met, Gabor, is he part of the Best of Hungary?
No, sadly not. He was just. I happened to see out of the corner of my eye two things which got me going. One was an awful lot of chocolate, and the other thing was somebody, because it was Gabor, and it's so timely when you're talking about our partnerships around the world and how we've been looking at all sorts of countries, including Hungary.
Yeah, well, Gabor and Monica, they run Best of Hungary, which brings in some of the the best foods from Hungary, including the Tokai and some of the best truffles and other sorts of things. I mean, paprika, it's the best paprika in the world as well. But what we've banded with them for specifically is the fortified wines. So we're going to make Tokai, the king of wine, a bit more affordable for people to experience. And it's the type of wine that only used to be enjoyed by Habsburg royalty.
And that's in terms of curating some of the best is what we're doing at KTT, and with and what we love is a fantastic journey. And talking of which, where the journey started all those years ago, we happen, because we're in Chinatown now, on Wardour Street, where in 1905 the Magic Circle was set up on the 1st of July, and on the 1st of July we basically had 23 magicians met at Pinoli's restaurant on this very site, and RJ and I met each other. I'm showing everybody the plaque, RJ. We're right outside the restaurant now, where we met all those years ago. Tell everybody about that.
The real origin of KTT. yeah. But we're both going to that event, and you know who actually who told me about it to show up there? It was Mike Read,
who we had on the show earlier.
Yeah,
and
that's right. Sorry, go on, Andrew.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's where the Magic Circle met, 1st of July 1905, and it was set up there. And RJ, who's a brilliant mentalist, came along with Dwina, and we met and we got on and thought, well, hang about, we have so much in common that we should combine forces and see all the unfinished business that you were discussing with your father about bringing products to the fore, bringing music to the next generation. And that's why we set up Not the Truth. And Not the Truth, we should, as we walk down, I'll take you down Chinatown as we do it, but Not the Truth was set up for a particular reason. And tell everybody, for those who haven't heard it yet, the reason for the name.
Well, I mean, we both worked in with holograms, so HD projection holograms, Pepper's Ghost style, and many different some companies. And apart from you being a magician, me being a mentalist, and the holograms, we really hit it off and decided that we both had the same sort of interest as well in the propaganda and fake news and post-truth era that's going on. And it's great at MIPCOM, where we officially launched it in 2018. Cannes.
Absolutely, and it was launched to much media acclaim. I was down in Cannes and RJ was there virtually, and we basically had a fantastic launch. Everybody in the industry was saying it's about time. We are delighted delighted that what has been the soundtrack to everybody's lives is now being given the next generation, with RJ bringing his uncle's and his father's music to a new audience, but also bringing his own fantastic compositions. And we're now, as we do that, RJ, we're now on Shaftesbury Avenue, and I can take you along to the Curzon. I know that was a relevant part. Tell us about some of your own compositions while we do that.
Okay, well, we'll be releasing a lot of my own compositions this year, so it's a long time coming. I've been mostly on the production side of things, and now I've got my own personal things. Oh yeah, I'm outside of my family's here. Hold on, you can probably hear them in the back. So yeah, I'm going to be releasing. We've got not only my stuff, but also covers of Juliet, Another Lonely Night in New York, and we'll also be doing. There's On and On, and it's not just going to be singles. There'll be EPs as well. So we'll drip feed it over time, and after we have it all together, we'll release it. After a period of time, we'll release it as an album. So it's really exciting stuff.
And basically, the website. Sorry, RJ. The website is all being launched, so people will find all the details there. And we'll be feeding that through with Marion and GSI and all that sort of exclusive side and details. And that's how we like. Every day we're releasing content, and RJ and I are working on extra special ways we can bring things to the fans. Because it is important, isn't it, RJ?
Here's Megan. I'm just walking by. Say hello.
Hi.
Hey, Megan, how are you?
Good, we're in the pool with the ducks.
You're in the pool. That's absolutely amazing. And how are the children enjoying lockdown? Or they've been let out a bit now?
Those baby ducks.
Yeah, the baby ducks came to the swimming pool with mummy duck.
I wish you could see this. It's incredible.
I'll tell you what, I wish I could be in it. I don't know about seeing it. It is. I'm on the streets of London, just outside Harry Potter's place.
Oh, well.
And we're walking the streets of London with RJ on Charing Cross Road now. And we were just talking about life in lockdown, and there you are, fantastic. I would love to be in the pool. It's a perfect day.
How magical is that?
Absolutely, you see, everything is beautifully timed. How magical is that? Fantastic, I love it. So this is the play, and the thing about London's centre is it is the heart of so many things. I mean, this is the Palace Theatre here. It's where Harry Potter is shown. This was built for Richard D'Oyley Carte in 1891. By the coal cutter known as the Royal English Opera House. And the theatre was renamed the Palace Theatre of Varieties in 1892. And in 1911 it became the Palace Theatre and is famous for being the home of London's longest running musicals. Well, now they've got Harry Potter here, and we were talking about RJ and his magic, and then all of a sudden Harry Potter pops up. How good is that?
Yeah, no, it's... I remember the J.K. Rowling books when I was in school, when they first came out, and how many of the students in my class. This was in the U.S. I went to school here and in the U.S. because of course they had to work together because I was always on the road with my father, so my schools were good enough to work together with each other. But I remember the Harry Potter books at that time. Little did I know at that time it was going to be as big as it is now. I'm here. I'm sitting on my tablet.
Oh, you can? Oh, fantastic. Oh, good. So we can see it. Oh, that's even better then. You can see if we ever get cut out or ever I can't hear you, you can let me know. That's fantastic. So I'm going to take you, I'm on your tablet then, I'm going to take you to a couple of places just around here, another of which has connections with us and one of the early things that we did. I wonder if you can guess who it might be. And I'm walking up here, I'm going to take you to the Ivy in a little bit, which is just around the corner. But first of all, let me take you to this particular store. Are you watching on the tablet at the moment, RJ?
No, actually, I've got it here though. Hold on, wait.
You've got it?
Yeah. Do you want me to
I know that you can put it on, but I'll tell you what you're setting up. I'm in front of a child of the Jago.
Ah, okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, no, yeah,
And,
Joe Corey.
and this is Joe Corey.
A good friend of ours. He's just going to where the Wi. Sorry, one second. Just going to where the Wi-Fi is. Right here. Hello. Joys of life.
I know, we love the joys. As I say, you and I got cut off. We couldn't hear each other, but we're battling through it. We're okay. It's good. And I think people are very forgiving in this day and age when they sort of turn around and they realise these are extraordinary times to be in. But what I love is that we can adapt, and it's better to give something than nothing at all. And I think in these circumstances, I actually like the rawness of it, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, we should bring Joe on as well. Actually, that's one we should talk to him. Because he's got some great things to say about the history of the punk scene in London, as well as Carnaby Street and all those quirky areas. I think he was neck deep in the fashion industry for a long time, so it'd be great.
Oh no, fantastic! And
his mother, for people who don't know, his mother's Vivian Westwood. His father was Malcolm Claren. So these are they began what was known as the punk movement, which changed pop culture, really.
Absolutely, and he's such a brilliant guy, and he's a brilliant activist about climate change and basically using his recognition in the world to shine a spotlight on issues such as climate change. And Vivian's a fantastic activist on that front now as well for a number of years, and it's changing the mindset. I think the more people talk about these things, the better. We're also outside now, the Mousetrap, the longest running play in history, and sadly that's been paused, but also the Ivy. Tell us about the Ivy, RJ.
Well, the Ivy, it's I can't remember a time when my father wasn't going to the Ivy. That was just, before he had his favorite restaurants, but if he was going to meet with people and he was going to have a business a meeting at lunch, it was always the Ivy. So yeah, one sec, sorry.
That's okay. I'll talk. Tell me when you're back. So the Ivy is. You are back. Okay, but I can say that it was actually it opened on this site in 1917. Monsieur Abel, we're resuming. Okay, we're outside. Welcome back. What I love about this is if we had commercials, that would be the commercial break each time. But we are stoic. We will carry on regardless, won't we, RJ? We won't let these little technical issues interrupt us. But so we are on the site of the Ivy.
To upgrade the show in future as well, and keep everything free for the people, what we should do is we should start looking at having the relevant stuff for people if they want to purchase, especially the stuff from the Robert Gibb line and the KTT line that we're putting out. So.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that'll all be on the site as well. So as we leave the Ivy, your father's restaurant, you're absolutely right. All of the products that we've mentioned, the idea is to bring them to a new audience, to the fans and new generations alike, who want to have a chance to sample what Robin enjoyed, but also what RJ has been looking at himself for some time. And that's the great thing about KTT. We are going to bring it all to you live and exclusive here on KTT. And one of the joys about being here in the centre of London is that we can show people exactly what life is like. We can also give you samples of what life is like. And we were talking a bit earlier, RJ, about the Drumathon. And you very generously together with...
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, you very generously donated some items from your father's place.
Yes.
Talk to me about those.
The items that donated for the auction. One is okay. A bit of a background. My father had about, I'd say, 8 to 10 pairs of sunglasses that he would wear. Not necessarily on rotation, but depending on what event he was going to, or you know what occasion. So these are a kind of an aviator, almost aviator style pair of blue sunglasses in his case as well, the same metal case that I always used to see him carrying around. So he would have loved though go towards you know to go to the NHS at such a time. You know, if there was ever a crisis or ever a pandemic, you know, I know my father. I know what he would have done, and this is what he would have wanted. So yeah, we've got that, and also a photograph of him that he cherished. He had it on the side of his bed all the time. It was him in because he loved, you know, period costume, and he had gone to a fancy dress party in Miami, and they had dressed up as I'm sure there's one of probably Barry and Maurice as well out there, but no one has seen me. So he's wearing the 17th century regalia. So
That's a fantastic photo. It used to be by his bed, didn't it?
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, it used to be by his bedside.
That's right. Yeah, it used to be. It was in a frame by his bedside, but we've taken it out of the original frame and we've given it to him because Errol wanted a larger frame, so it's now in a silver frame. So we've got that, the sunglasses, and gave some signed CDs as well. So there's one of them is 50 St. Catherine's Drive, and the other one is the Requiem for Titanic.
And absolutely superb. And we saw you live with Errol and Bev signing that, and we had the wonderful jeopardy of the pen running out, all of those sort of stuff. Which we always love. We're now, RJ, on Frith Street and Ronnie Scott's, and a few wonderful places here. You've been to Ronnie Scott's a few times.
Yeah, of course.
So talk to us about Ronnie Scott's. Did you ever play there? Would you like to play there? It's such an iconic place to play.
No, I've never played Ronnie Scott's, but I've produced a lot of artists who have their origins there. I mean, a lot of them were playing at Ronnie Scott's before they started getting into the more mainstream. See, at the time it wasn't as mainstream as it is as well, but Ronnie Scott's has actually grown in itself as well, as you know. And not least of all because of Jeff, a good friend Jeff, who did a lot to help a lot of these places like Ronnie Scott's achieve their optimum.
And it is, and this is at the throbbing heart of London. And this site here, which has a blue plaque to Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who 1756 to 1791. He lived, played and composed in a house on this site, and that's right opposite Ronnie Scott's. We also have Little Italy.
A lot of people don't know that Mozart had his London base.
Yeah, and it is.
A lot of people just associate Austria and Italy with
That's right, and it is iconic, and also the great thing about Bar Italia, which is just next door. In 1926, John Logie Baird first demonstrated television. So as we're revolutionising at KTT, the new way of bringing entertainment to the world on a mobile phone where you can't hear anybody, what we can also do at this site at John Logie Baird, we can talk about how we're looking with holograms, how we're looking with AI, how we're looking with AR. It's quite appropriate. But do stay tuned, because this, at the very site of John Logie Baird, where he first demonstrated television, we can tell you that KTT is involved in the next generation of bringing fantastic content to you with the latest technology.
Absolutely.
So we're now wandering down, RJ, you can tell us about this. We're wandering into Dean Street, and we can do some of the studios here. And in Dean Street, we also have the Groucho Club, the Delaney studios. Maybe you can talk us through as I will start walking down to Dean Street.
broke up a little bit there. You're talking about the Groucho Club?
Yeah, so I'm on Dean Street. I know it sounds a bit difficult for some. We can't hear each other. Sometimes it might sound as though we're talking over each other, but we're not really. We don't mean to. But sometimes we can't quite hear each other. What I was saying is that, yes, we're now on Dean Street. And on Dean Street, I was asking you about the Groucho Club, which I'm just about to pass, and also Delaney Studios. So let's talk about this. Outside the Groucho Club, they have a rainbow with saying "Stay homo, love one another." There you go, all good stuff.
Yeah, no, a lot of these areas like Dean Street, Wardour, and all those. I mean, it was at one time. I was, especially when I was with Backdoor Studio, the Backdoor Agency, and also the studio that was there. As well as when I was at RADA, because of course a lot of times we would be going to the different hubs that RADA had around the city, and one was in Soho. So it's like a stomping ground, really. And the Groucho was so many people still go there and have a loyalty there to the Groucho Club. It's amazing.
It is absolutely incredible. We've been a member there for a little while. And any club that has us as a member, no club I want to belong to, as good old Groucho famously said. Also, this part of London is home to a lot of the studios, and we're going to be wandering along here as well. And 40 Dean Street, a lot of these are restaurants where, because it's in the heart of London, we would come here sometimes late at night to enjoy down there on Mead Street, these little back streets. On all of these, we'll be coming in more depth on these KTT walks. We'll be having all sorts of, we're both, when RJ and I can get together again, we'll both be in the same place. That way we'll hear each other, won't we, RJ? Which will be great.
Yeah.
And
we should get the cameras that we can both use, like either on the shoulder or...
Exactly.
Could do this, do these walks.
No, that'd be fantastic, because the cameras also will mean that nobody will be able to phone us on a camera, will they? So that won't interrupt us either. We're passing...
No, the camera's linked to the...
Exactly. But I'm here now, and it's good. I was talking about it earlier. Delane Lee and the studios here. We talked about that sort of side, because obviously an important part on Dean Street, number 75 Dean Street, and another important part of BG's history, where things were recorded, and a lot of the fans asked specifically to have a look at this site. And by walking around, you can see its location just up from the Groucho Club. Just over the road, we have Quo Vadis. And Karl Marx, can you believe, Karl Marx lived in this building.
Second story, that's right.
Yeah.
The second story, he wrote the Communist Manifesto there.
Yeah, from 1851 until 1856. So just before 7 o'clock at night. But Karl Marx lived right next door to this. So it is extraordinary history that we're in the heart of. Fantastic. We're just passing now, RJ, the Red Fort, wonderful Indian restaurant. And we're both a bit partial to Indian food as well, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. I mean, every cuisine in the world that's worth eating is got the best of London.
It is.
That's a great... Indian food is amazing in London.
Absolute sensational. And also over the road, just here, we've got the Soho Theatre. So behind me is the Soho Hotel. And if I turn around like that, behind me we have the Soho Theatre. And a lot of the theatres at the moment are looking at ways of reopening in social distancing. And what RJ and I are doing, we're looking at ways of bringing these concerts to a new audience. We've done a lot online already, RJ, and I know we've got a bit more planned. Talk about some of the things that we've done so far and give us a little taste of what we might expect for the future online.
Sorry, for what?
Oh, so online it started. We started with the Serbian royal family. We were talking about that a bit earlier. And we were asked, it was like a royal command performance for the Serbian royal family. I'm going to take you down St Anne's Court as I do this, which is again famous for a number of the studios here. And what we did is basically we did a big charity event at the Berkeley Hotel and raised lots of money. with famous Serbian footballers. And then on lockdown, we were asked to take part in an online concert, and RJ sang some of his own songs, some of his father's songs, some of the Bee Gees songs. And in total, you did 7 songs that night, which was tremendous. And you also did a duet with the Serbian pop star Boban. How did you find that?
It was great working with Boban. He sang. We both sang a bit of a chorus and verse, and we were talking about releasing it as a single for as a charity single. So
which would be wonderful, which was very good. And it's good timing, actually, talking about releases of singles, because I'm now outside BBC Music Day, where David Bowie and the fantastic Trident Studios. So I'm here with Trident Studios, and this is where David Bowie, 1947 to 2016, and his albums Hunky Dory and The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust, and the iconic single Space Oddity, were recorded here at Trident Studios, and it was awarded by BBC Radio London. They put up the plaque, and Mike was involved with that. We heard from Mike earlier. But the Trident Studios, have you been down to Trident Studios, RJ?
I've been down to Trident.
And it's a glorious, you've got glorious little alleys down here, which is fantastic. And tell us about some of the studios as well then, since we're passing the studios, that you remember yourself, and some which you've recorded on with your father.
Islington is one of the main spots where we used to record, which was Angel Studios. We worked at Air is probably one of the finest studios of it. Red Bus, which Elio Cohen, for years is a good friend.
And we're going to visit that, and we'll take you there, because you recorded...
The Metropolis, of course.
Absolutely, and again with some of the iconic venues. This is the Ship, which we're passing now on Wardour Street, and the reason that's important, because I'm going to take you up to the Marquee Club, which was the home of music for many years, and lots of the major artists used to work there, but they didn't have a license, so everybody used to come in and drink at the Ship. And this is the Ship. It's the iconic bar, which is obviously closed at the moment, and we'll take you down to the Marquee Club, which was founded by a guy called Harold Pembleton, and lots of the people there, and I'm sure your father and your uncle certainly would have known Harold as well. And the Marquee Club on Wardour Street, it celebrated a number of years ago its 50th anniversary on Wardour Street, and we threw a fantastic party for Harold and arranged for artists from every one of the decades, from the 50 decades, so people like 10 Years After and various others, all the different ones on Wardour Street. And it's now turned into a restaurant called Floridita, but this was the original home of the Marquee Club. Did you ever come here, RJ? Do you remember the Marquee Club?
Marquee Club, did you mention Floridita?
Floridita, sorry, I know it's the reception. Floridita.
Yes.
Yeah, which is the restaurant.
Yeah. No, I know Floridita very well. I used to go there to dance to salsa music. And
well, that's it. Well, Floridita was the home of the Marquee Club.
Right, I see.
So, and the Marquee Club was this iconic music venue. I'm showing everybody inside now, and obviously they're still doing lots of live stuff there. But this is where I took Harold Pembleton all those years ago to celebrate the 50th anniversary. So, no, fantastic. And we were talking, RJ, about online, how we're adapting in this extraordinary time, and how successful you can still do these online concerts. And you've really taken to that, haven't you? I mean, you've done the collaboration with Boban. You've also done collaboration with the Italian Bee Gees, and working on that sort of basis, it's really quite phenomenal.
Oh yeah, no. we'll be doing a lot of these Zoom concerts. You know, we do got to keep the content coming out until, of course, we can we're more social and we can use the venues again. Yep, I fully intend to keep the music coming.
And that's the great thing about it. There's lots which we're going to be releasing on KTT, and you mentioned that earlier. And fans will be able to find out about that if they go to the KTT website. But also, we're going to drip feed and the exclusive news that also with our favourite chum and massive supporter, for whom we're eternally grateful, the wonderful Marion Adrianson, and the fantastic work that she's doing at GSI. So we're now wandering into Brewer Street, and I'm going to take you down to Piccadilly, and we can have a look at Piccadilly before we make our way back to the route we went on this morning, and RJ will be able to fill us in on the things that we saw there. Just as we pass here, this used to be Madame Jojo's, which is a famous drag place in Soho. They used to have fantastic cabaret and various other things, and sadly this was
Drag racing.
yeah, well, maybe drag racing. If you get all the drag queens running against each other. I thank you. We love it, it's all good. And look, I know the incredible thing which you'll see, RJ, when you look back at this, it's so empty. Everywhere is empty. I'm not going to blag any more stuff, although I think I could. I reckon we could do that in another show. This would be, instead of challenge Annika, you could challenge Andrew to see what he could get from all these different places. It's quite extraordinary. There's a massage parlour there. I'll avoid that. I'm sure they don't sell massages. And over here, well, they might do. All extraordinary stuff. So, RJ, we're walking down now Shaftesbury Avenue, and we're going to go to Piccadilly Circus and the statue of Eros. Have a look there, and down Piccadilly. And we can then take you a slightly different way. Which way would you like to go? We can take you wherever you'd like to go. Let me take you by the hand, and we're leading you through those streets of London. You're here live with KTT and GSI, and it's Andrew Eborn here with the wonderful RJ Gibb, taking you on a special guided tour of all places related not just to RJ's father, not just to RJ's uncles, otherwise known as the Bee Gees, but also RJ's journey. And actually, you and I, RJ, have enjoyed most of this wonderful London ourselves, haven't we?
Oh yeah. Yeah, lots of great memories.
Fantastic, and many more to come. And talking of memories, I'm now outside Thriller, or where Thriller would be. And today, the 25th of June, on 2009, Michael sadly left us. And I'm outside now where Thriller is. And as we stop and remember, those 11 years have flown by, haven't they?
Yeah, that's right.
And we were saying beforehand some of the memories that you have of Michael, because he was very close and used to often surprise your family with surprise visits, didn't he?
Well, he was a close friend of Barry's. He also, you know, he loved the Bee Gees and Andy's music as well. So he's the thing I was telling you about before was you know, he would show up on the dock and just you know, he wouldn't say to Barry or to my father that he was going to be in town. He would just show up on the dock and say, "Oh, is Robin home?" You know? That was when he surprised my grandmother, Barbara, with all his bodyguards, you know, outside. So they, in case any of you out there don't know what I'm talking about, because we talked about this before. She was woken up by these lights in the middle of the night coming, like spotlights, moving back and forth. And she kind of looked through the blinds and she saw this group of people walking towards her, and then they all stood in a semicircle outside the door of her apartment downstairs, 5790 North Bay Road. And they all looked like they were, Secret Service or FBI, agents. She didn't know what was going on. And she opened the door, and then the two bodyguards in the middle just kind of parted, and out walked Michael Jackson. And he said, "Oh, hey, Barbara, is Robin home?" And she said, "No, Michael, no, he's in London at the moment." Oh, so he was there with his because he always had the bodyguards, like the Nation of Islam bodyguards. That's who the guys in the suits were, and she was quite relieved when she realised there was nothing afoot. So she just told them, it's contact. So that's one of the good stories. I remember very briefly with my Uncle Andy there. They were taking photographs of guitars. I remember seeing this person who I later identified from photos as Michael Jackson. Stevie met him. He was old enough to remember more of that as well. But apart from that, he was mostly Barry's friend.
But we remember him. I mean, all those years which have flown by to the very day. Today's the day, 25th of June, on 2009, that we learned the news that Michael had left us, and it seems fitting that we should share those memories. We're now in Piccadilly Circus. I'm by the statue of Eros, and looking down at Piccadilly, and what was normally the biggest retail area. Lily White's. I came here the other day and it was empty. If we have a look through the window, you'll see. And it's the wrong entrance. How are you all? You're live on KTT. Big smile, fantastic. There's a whole lot of shoes, but not a lot of people to try them on. So this is extraordinary. Yeah.
One thing I can tell you about that statue, it's the Shaftesbury Memorial statue, the one you're standing at. It's a lot of people always. I mean, it's known throughout the world as the statue of Eros, but the god of love, the Cupid. But in fact, it was Alfred Gilbert, when he made the statue, he had intended the figure to be the brother Anteros of Eros. So he's actually the god of selfish. What is it? The selfish relationships, or selfish love.
Oh right.
Anteros. He's.
Oh really? Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. It's not actually Eros. It's Anteros, but everyone identifies it as Eros. Just a quick.
I know. Well, that's what I love about this, RJ. I love the fact that we can set the record straight. We're here to combat fake news, as we broke the news about Larry the Cat earlier in the programme at Downing Street, and all this stuff. It is amazing. That's what Not the Truth is about. There's a big record. We're on the corner of Piccadilly Circus and Regent Street, and this is the home of the big record store, where I'm sure that for a long time your father's records would have flown through the door. Do you remember the association with the record store on Piccadilly Circus? But I know a lot of bands played here as well.
Yeah. Is it you talking about HMV?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I used to go to HMV. Anytime I was in London when I was a teenager, I used to go check out what was going on there. What was, exactly. They had performances. They had, people signing things in there. So they sometimes had artists in there. Yeah, no, it was always fun, and I kind of missed that.
Yeah, I think those are the days we should bring back. I think that sort of side, we should look at the things that we miss, the great things in life that we always took for granted when we had them, and now that they've gone, we're missing. So we should, and that's what we're going to do at KTT. We're going to start bringing back the best of the best. We're going to start bringing back the stuff that people remember and loved, because nostalgia, ain't what it used to be.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring it back. We're now walking, RJ, on, just to let you know, on Regent Street. We're passing the Cafe Royale, a fantastic place called Cake and Bubbles, which do the most glorious cakes. Italian restaurant, an Indian restaurant, one of the oldest ones in London, Viraswamy. And we're seeing all the retail here, RJ. And it's actually, even though London is opening up and a lot of the stores are open, it's the same story. There's nobody in these stores. I'll walk you past, I won't go in, but we're going to go back in a moment to Carnaby Street, where we started this morning, and you can tell us some of the stories. And basically those who are just joining us, who joined us on the, as I called it, the Marseille tour this morning, the one without sound, because we tried to get two of you. We had Mike on as well, and I could hear them perfectly clearly, but sometimes we can't, even RJ and I can't hear each other sometimes, so we think we're both talking at the same time. So what? Who? Are you talking over me? What's that? I know, it's so funny. But yeah, so this morning some of you said you couldn't hear. I think you can all hear now, which is lovely. So we're going to go back the same way. We are walking, as I mentioned, Viraswamy, which is the oldest Indian restaurant in London, which do some fine. You like your Indian food, don't you, RJ?
Oh, yeah, déjà vu.
Yeah. What do the French call déjà vu?
Yeah, it's yeah, as I was saying, you know, London has some of the best cuisines in the world, and of course, because of the association with India, I mean, the past hasn't always been that glorious, of course, with the Raj and so forth. But what it did was it mixed the cultures, and of course, we now have great sort of British Indian culture here in London and elsewhere. And there's a lot of people in India as well who identify with British culture. So it's akin to kind of what happened in Japan, I think, in the post-war era. Where
no, that's absolutely right. Well, Viraswamy was founded in 1926, and what I love about any restaurant down here, and there are a few of them, they are on a place called Swallow Street, which is quite appropriate for a restaurant. So all good stuff. So Swallow Street, absolutely. So we're walking. This is some of the most beautiful architecture in the world. Actually, it's one of my most beautiful places is to walk late at night. But it's deserted. I can say it's deserted now. Super Dry is not here. The Bodies shop has no body in it. See what I did there? The place is deserted. And what we're going to do, we're walking up Regent Street, and then I'm going to dip down into Carnaby Street, which is where we were a few hours ago, and we're going to take you back on the tour, this time with wonderful commentary from RJ, so you'll be able to hear what he has to say about it, and we can work through there. So we're going to cross the road up here in a bit. We're walking past some of the most iconic stores. Sorry, RJ, go for it.
No, sorry. I just said, are you going back to RSO?
Yes, so we're going to do our journey in reverse from this morning, for the benefit of all those crickets. And then the next time we'll come with a film crew and we'll do it all. But it gives a little taste of just how exciting London is on foot, and the wonderful tales that can be told just by walking around. And that every place is turn a different corner and you get some fantastic stuff. How are you doing? You all right? Penhaligon's again. It smells divine. We love it. The wonderful smell of Penhaligon's opening up. But all of these places it is extraordinary, RJ. We're right here and every single shop is deserted. It's quite incredible.
Yeah. I would have expected, a lot more people because, of course, I would say about half the population is for herd inoculation, and the other half is still, firmly standing their ground that they should stay in lockdown.
Yeah, I know quite well. You're right.
Yeah, no,
it's
you just
incredible.
expect more than deserted streets at this moment.
But it's what we were saying earlier about the news, and this is why it's so important to get the news from so many different sources. And your fantastic history lesson when we stood in Westminster and talking about why history was important and how Churchill was important and how all we saw on the news, the last we saw of him, he was in a box to avoid him being pulled down or covered in graffiti. Well, we went there today and there he was, together with lots of other statues. There wasn't a single soul in sight and he was absolutely fine. We also walked along to Downing Street and had a great conversation with the security there, and we found out the breaking news, that the story of Larry the Cat is a prime example of fake news. And we call about Larry the Cat is the Mouseketeer, as they called him, of Downing Street. And the fake news story is there hasn't just been one Larry the Cat, but there have been 20 of the things.
So it should be Larry Double X.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we love it. So they've had 20 of these things for the last 40 years, taken from Battersea Dogs Home. Well, listen, this is great because we have come all the way. We're now making our way to Kingley Street, which is just by Covent Garden. You can see this is one running parallel to Covent Garden. And just where we started this morning, and we can run you through in reverse some of the highlights of what we saw in the original tour, which started all those hours ago at 11:11. And a quick time check for us, RJ. What's the time now?
Time now is 3:49 or 15:49 BST.
15:49. So you can check the time. This is live and exclusive. I've been walking since then. This is why I was probably a lot bigger when you first saw me. Half of me is on the streets of London. But here we are. This is in Carnaby Street, and this is one of the iconic places we started with not so long ago. And the reason we're just stopping here, in particular at number 5 Carnaby Street, is because number 5 was the home of a very famous tailor. His name was John Stephen, and John Stephen, basically on Carnaby Street, he used to have this place, and what happened is he was known as the $1 million or the £1 million mod, and or the king of Carnaby Street. And fashion was very important to your father and your uncles. Tell me about that, RJ.
Yeah, I mean, well, my father loved Carnaby Street, especially out of all three of them. I would say him. Well, you know, Maurice used to go there too. I'm not too sure about Barry, but I know they used to go down to a lot of the outlets there, and he would pick, you know, he would pick a top from one place, and he'd go to another place and get the bottoms, and then he'd get the shoes from somewhere. So he'd mix and match and make his own sort of eclectic style of it was like modern mixed with a kind of 18th century flair to it. So okay. So one thing I can remember is that apart from the actual Carnaby Street, there was all these little things. I also love Carnaby Street. I have a good history of going there and diving into. Are you there? Are you on Carnaby Street?
Yeah, I'm on Carnaby Street. I'm even showing you are here on Carnaby Street.
Well, there's little like Beak Street, I remember, and Ganton Street.
Oh yeah, Ganton Street. I can take you along to Ganton Street. Do you want to have a look at that?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. These are where there's a lot of just quirky stores that you wouldn't find anywhere. You know, it's just amazing. You know, just hidden gems. I used to go get top hats and bowler hats. Actually, it's stuff that Joe Corey would be selling now, but you had to make your own back then. Right.
Well, we are on Ganton Street now. So it leads to Newburgh Street. I can go both left and right. Let's go. We'll go over to the east first and have a look at some of these smaller stores. And a lot of them, same story. A lot of them are open. Although there's one restaurant where people are actually sitting outside, so that's good. Now, here's one with little hats, little caps, and shoes they're making.
You mentioned John Stephen. I mean, his first boutique was on Beak Street, but it burned down. So he ended up on the main drag, which he's just one of the. I mean, okay, you had Ariella, Mary Quant, you had Take Six. Take Six was one of the most iconic. A lot of people used to get their suits. You know, they had whole suits for people put together in this style. And if you were a hippie or a mod or if you were a hipster in any way, you know, Carnaby was and still is the place to go.
Absolutely, and that's why the $1 million mod, I think that's what a £1 million mod,
Yeah.
that's what he was known as. And he would dress, I mean, your father had some wonderful clothes and iconic looks at different stages of their career. Who was responsible for that side?
Well, him. That's the thing. He would go down to Carnaby and pick and match his own clothes to make these wonderful. You know, he had some wonderful results, and then he liked the haircut of a lot of the mods as well. So he had his hair cut like that at one time. So he was experimenting with all different types of style. You know, slightly psychedelic, slightly period costume.
And that's what he loved. I mean, he had a wonderful mischievous sense of humour we spoke about previously. And in that picture for the Drumathon, that's a prime example of that sort of sense of humour, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And quite extraordinary. Well, we're leaving that particular place. When we were here earlier at the Shakespeare's Head, we saw the sign painter, who, because they're about to open again on July the 4th, they've now finished that Westgate Brewery since 1799. We had a quick chat with the sign keeper earlier on. I don't know, that was probably the time when nobody could hear us, RJ. But this is the Shakespeare's Head, and this one was actually built on 1735. And this was originally owned by Thomas and John Shakespeare, who were in fact distant relatives of the poet. And in its early days, this tavern stood on the boundary line that divided the lines of the Mercer's Company from those of the Abbot of Abingdon, bizarrely. And it was known as the 6 Acre Fields. And then the fields were part of the site of the riding school, and it belonged to Major Henry Foubert. And this is why you get a lot of these names. So over there it's called Foubert's Place. It's named after a lot of people who have this sort of history, and quite extraordinary. But this is a deserted Carnaby Street. And what we're doing now, RJ, we're walking to the top of Carnaby Street, and the next major place that we spoke about is one of the most famous theatres in the world, where all the greats have played, including in 1973 the fantastic concert from the Bee Gees. And in fact it was the last place that your father played, but also they had the press conference of Saturday Night Fever here and the musical world premiere of Saturday Night Fever. And I am of course talking about the London Palladium. Talk to me about your memories of the London Palladium.
Well, the Bee Gees had some. They had a few concerts that they performed at the Palladium, but the only one that I got to see was the last concert my father, his last appearance on stage, was his appearance with soldiers. I was actually a producer on that record. It went gold and it made a lot of money for charity. Got to get a message to you. And these guys are great guys, great singers. They performed with my father, and they performed that song and many others. He did a whole set. You know, he dragged himself out of bed. He was sleeping, gosh, almost 24 hours, a day at that point. He was skinny as, I mean, people will remember this. I don't want to upset people, but that was that was a time where people wouldn't have expected him to show himself in public, and he did. And he said it was more important to get the money for charity and not to let the fans down.
And obviously an incredibly difficult time for you and the family and things like that, but seeing the building now and how it all comes back, even though it's in lockdown, and many of the theatres are at the moment, they hold the memories, don't they? And it's fond memories because it was on stage with the love of the fans. Many performers say that's really what they want to be remembered for, isn't it?
Yeah. I agree.
And that's why I think, even though he wasn't at his strongest, it was very important that he came along to the London Palladium and didn't let anybody down, even though everybody would have understood.
I don't think anyone would have chastised him for it or
Absolutely
criticized.
not.
Yeah, I think he just had it was his own sense of letting people down, that he didn't want to. He didn't want anybody to think that he wasn't fully behind the cause, and he didn't want to just didn't want to let the fans down.
Yeah, no, quite incredible. And
Very
you were,
important too.
yeah, and you were. I mean, you were more than just a son to him. I mean, he was your best friend as well, wasn't he?
In many ways, yeah. We've been throughout life. I had always been very close to my father. We started. I mean, we had written songs over the years and collaborated for other artists. At the time we actually decided to do something for us, was when we actually started to work together in the studio, and that's some of the where we got even closer, I think. It was the Requiem itself ended up almost being not the Requiem for Titanic. It ended up being the Requiem for him, sadly. I think he kind of knew it as well. He was saying, that if anything should happen, I want this to be played. So talking about different songs. But and he was never a guy to talk about like that. So you knew he was really because I think he wanted to get it done. The record took 2 years to make, and he didn't want to. It's that kept him going as well. He needed to do something. He needed to work. He always needed to work. He never saw, as an artist, as a musical artist, he never saw retirement as it wasn't arts. You don't retire as an artist. You don't have to just prove